But now we have some business that we need to discuss here.
Yes.
Hold on, I'm going to find this email that I sent you yesterday. I have no doubt that you read this with deep consideration and concentration.
Wait, you sent me an email? Welcome to Backtracking, the show where two old friends take a second listen to influential bands' catalogs track by track. I am J. William Hall.
And I'm Dan Fiden. We'll be taking this journey together, providing context, both historical and personal, on some legendary bands. For our second season, we have selected none other than American Music Club. J. William Hall, here we are, back again. How are you?
I'm feeling just dandy.
That is good. I'm glad to hear it. As we discussed a little bit before recording, I'm feeling a little bit ill today, suffering from the side effects of the old man's curse, the shingles vaccine. I hit 50, and like a good soldier, I went right to the Kaiser Permanente office here and said, "Hey, listen, I need to get my shingles vaccine." And they warned me that there would be some side effects, that I wouldn't necessarily feel great. And I can tell you, they weren't lying.
I've had the shingles vaccine. I urge all of our listeners out there who may be 50 years of age or older, get your shingles vaccine. I've heard from multiple people who did not get the vaccine and actually got the shingles, how excruciating it was. So feeling like you have the flu for 2 days is no big whoop compared to the mind-meltingly painful experience of having actual shingles. Get the vaccine.
Yeah. Now, I have heard that actual shingles is extraordinarily painful. I don't understand what shingles actually is, but I can tell you, J. William Hall, that our audience is 47.1% over the age of 45 and a stunning 9.6% over the age of 60. So at least part of you in that 45 up demo, you guys need to look into it and make a decision. Is this the right thing for you? Consider it. Talk to your healthcare provider. And for God's sake, stay on top of it. If you're 60 plus and you haven't had it yet, gosh, you may want to consider it.
You're playing roulette.
Well, you are. You're playing shingles roulette. What is so? I don't understand what shingles actually is. Do you know what shingles actually is?
I believe it is an autoimmune thing where you get a virus, and if you had the chicken pox, it has something to do with if you had the chicken pox, you have the virus still in you, and it can reemerge, and it's a very painful rash. But it's like a nerve thing, and so it's not. It's not like a wound. It's like it gets into your nerves and drives you crazy.
Well, sounds terrible. Thank you for that on the ball, highly accurate description of shingles. Come here for not only your analysis of obscure indie rock, but also your medical advice.
We are not doctors, but we've done our own research.
That's right. I actually did an alarmingly small amount of research on getting the shingles vaccine. I basically just wrote a little message to my doctor, who I'm actually going to give a shout out to right here. Dr. Murray specialized in, you know what his specialty was?
What's that?
Rural medicine. Rural medicine. Yeah, which I thought was pretty cool. Yeah. We don't get a lot of, healthcare here where I live is quite poor. And I have Kaiser Permanente, which, it doesn't necessarily have a terrific reputation out there in the world. I know, but there are not a lot of options in Hawaii. So most of the healthcare providers at the Kaiser office here where I live are physician's assistants or Yeah, nurse practitioners or whatever, which is great for most of the things that I need. But my primary care actually is a medical doctor. And when you go to his little page on the Kaiser site, it says, this is what this was his specialty, and it was rural medicine, which I don't think I'd seen before, but I thought was pretty cool.
Well, good work, Dr. Murray. Dan, I'm sorry you're not feeling.
Thank you.
Super peppy, but
well, before we move on from rural medicine, I have to ask you because it's very important and it's related to rural medicine. Have you seen the terrific movie Doc Hollywood?
Yes, I think
from the 80s,
way back. That's
way back.
Is that Michael J. Fox?
Michael J. Fox at the height of his powers.
Right.
Really, it was an extremely charming kind of fish out of
big
water.
Big city doctor for some reason has to go to rural South, right?
Well, I don't want to spoil it for you, but I will say that the small town boy wanted to get out of his small town when he grew up. And so he went to the big city, got a fancy medical degree, and was going to become a plastic surgeon in Hollywood. Unfortunately, his car broke down in a small town in the South. And, from there, his life was changed. And so were the lives of everyone who lived in that little town. It's a terrific story.
That's quite a tale to pack into one movie.
Yeah.
Not a 10-part series on Netflix with commercials now.
No. All right. So J. William Hall, we are moving into a Mark Eitzel solo record. It is a release called Candy Ass. It came out in 2005. It is the next release in the Eitzel AMC combined canon chronologically. But before we dig into it this week, we have housekeeping to do. And the first bit of housekeeping I want to talk about is the housekeeping that relates to the schedule for the remainder of season 2. As I'm sure you know, J. William Hall, as I'm sure all of our listeners understand, we are rapidly getting to the end of season 2. We are almost all of the way through the combined catalog. But we've done a lot of thinking, a lot of talking about how we're going to tackle this from here on out. And I think what we've decided is the best thing to do for the remaining episodes is to break a little bit from the strict chronology of the catalog and jump around. So we're going to cover some Eitzel solo releases.
Jump around. Jump around.
That's right. We're gonna cover some Eitzel solo releases that actually were released after the final American Music Club record, Golden Age. And then we're going to come back and do Golden Age. Then we're going to just kind of wrap the whole season up. We feel as though it's only appropriate to kind of try to end the season with an AMC album, since that's really what brought us all here in the first place. It may not be exactly that, but I hope you all will indulge us with a little bit of creativity in how we cover the rest of the season. I'm sure you will. But if you just can't stand it, then feel free to send us an email at backtrackingrox@gmail.com.
If you hate it, then all you got to do is follow us on social media.
That's right.
Backtrackingrox, Instagram and Twitter, and I forget what else.
Yeah, just hit that like button, and that will send us the message that you're unhappy with how we're doing this. I want to cover some email. We got some emails since the last time we had an opportunity to do housekeeping.
Electronic communique.
Yeah, and we love to receive these emails. It really, really jazzes us up, as they say. So the first one that I want to talk about is from listener Will. Will, the first thing I want to say is he signs off his email with P.S. Fuck that guy, Michael, which I know we all can get behind. Thank you for that, Will. I think we're all in agreement on that issue. But he shared some emails that he still had lurking around in his inbox from way back when Eitzel was kind of maintaining a mailing list for his fans himself. I'm not going to read the entire series of emails that he sent, but I will note that the emails came from an Earthlink account, if that gives you any sense of how long ago this was.
That definitely
under the
puts
name,
a timestamp, yeah.
It's true. Under the name Napoleon Hill, which apparently is one of Eitzel's many pseudonyms. But he's talking about the reunion, actually. In the email, he's talking about a reunion show the band is going to be doing in San Francisco, and it's just a nice little glimpse into AMC and Eitzel history. Unfortunately, I never was on one of these email lists. I don't think where Eitzel was communicating directly with folks. I don't know, Jay William, if you were, but I was not.
No.
Yeah, I don't know how we missed that, but this was from 2003. So anyway, thank you, Will, for sharing that with us. I love that little bit of AMC history. The next email we received is from listener Mark. Listener Mark, of course, reached out to us previously to share that he, as well as Judge Ken, is one of the rare people at the center of the Venn diagram that is both a Rush and an AMC fan, and he is currently listening to both season 1 and season 2 simultaneously. So he is binging backtracking in a way that the bosses at Netflix are envious of.
That's hardcore.
He is hardcore. There is no doubt about it. But he shared a little some sentiments. He said it's great to have the opportunity to dig back out some Eitzel AMC records, and he shared that his first exposure to the band was on a No Alternative compilation in 1993. And J. William Hall, I know you remember that one.
Yes, all of your jeans were too tight.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, which I realized like after we had kind of gotten past that period, and I was like, oh, damn it, I forgot about that, because I aimed to be, as complete as I can, and we forgot about that song. But yeah, it was on that No Alternative compilation, which was a famous compilation. Like that has gone down as sort of like a just one of these compilations that caught sort of the zeitgeist of alternative music at that moment, Yeah,
it really, 93 was the year that I graduated from high school and entered college. And it really does seem like there was kind of like a lot. I mean, I'm sure everybody who is like 18 feels like there's uniquely cool music right at that moment in time. But I do feel like 93 was in some ways kind of a seminal year in rock music. It was really kind of the end of the 80s. You know what I mean? The 80s were I don't mean, obviously the 80s were over in 1989, right? But like 80s music and like the kind of glam rock and that style of pop music that was happening, MC Hammer and all that stuff, that kind of was like, it kind of died in 1993 in a way. Do you think that's a fair characterization?
Well, in my recollection, I think 93 was maybe a commercial peak for alternative music. The grunge tsunami had sort of like come in.
Happened.
And it lifted all of these alternative acts. They were all getting signed by major labels. Everyone was trying to find the next Nirvana. You know?
That's right.
And so, I feel like there was an influx of attention and probably money and all of that on alternative music for a period of time. And I think 93 might have been kind of like the heyday of that.
Yeah.
So, because No Alternative came out in 93. And I swear I just saw like an article or something that was like a retrospective, like No Alternative, like, why this compilation was super important. And they were on it. AMC, they were part of what was considered in that moment to be, the cream of alternative music.
That's right. That's right. I remember that. I remember that compilation. I remember that compilation well. He also shares that he attended one of the seminal AMC semi-reunions in 1998 at Hotel Utah that Sean Body writes about in his book. And he shares a very funny anecdote about how he was kind of standing near Dan Pearson, who was at a table with a bunch of folks, and they were looking at a magazine, and there was an ad for the Columbia House Record Club. And in it, they were basically laughing because someone made a joke that was like, oh, finally, there's a music club without any hassles. And in reference to America. Kind of funny. Great little glimpse of a moment in time for the band. Thank you for sharing that, young Mark. I appreciate the email. And then finally, what would be an episode without a message from superfan Judge Ken? He is the judge of our podcast. He is judge of our hearts. He is.
I do not object, Your Honor.
Yeah, and so he asked. He basically asked, "What are we going to do for the schedule for the rest of the season?" He was hoping we could do an odds and sods episode, and this is a little bit of what we've been struggling with, right? There is a lot of live material that was released by Eitzel. After Love Songs for Patriots, kind of after the Golden Age. There are a lot of self-released Eitzel solo records that kind of come in the 2010 plus era. We are not entirely certain how we're going to tackle all of that stuff yet. We have some initial thoughts. We want to be comprehensive, but we don't want to drag things out forever, right? So we're going to have to find some good ways to cover all of that material. I do think we'll cover the major live records that are out there. Our what's it called? Our last visit to Nottingham and something else. But we're going to cover those. We're going to try and get through all the Eitzel solo material. We may not get through all the demo records that are out there. There's at least a couple more that are in the catalog. But we're going to try and be as comprehensive as we possibly can in the remainder of Season 2 while still delivering an exciting Tournament of Champions in our season finale and ending the season before the end of 2025. Because as you all know, new seasons of Backtracking generally start on Christmas Eve. Who is the band for Season 3? I don't know. I don't have a plan yet. I need to develop a plan.
You're entertaining offers. Everyone's clamoring, all of these bands. Think of any band. Throw a rock. You're going to hit a band that's clamoring to be the focus of Season 3. Unfortunately,
yes.
J. William Hall, will probably not be along on that ride, right?
Well, listen, I don't know. I mean, so I'll give you a real-time update on it. I need a shorter season for Season 3. I just really need a shorter season than the Rush season and the AMC season.
Backtracking is your life.
I just need a shorter one. And so but it's got the band, the musician needs to check all of the boxes that we've talked about all along, right? Needs to be an interesting musician who demonstrates substantial evolution from release to release, and hopefully a band or a musician that there aren't 75,000 podcasts about, right? And that's really been the challenge. How do we find and I need to have a co-host that I think knows the band pretty well and is interested in doing the podcast. I did make an offer. I made an offer to someone, the musician that I wanted to cover for Season 3, Joanna Newsom. I've been talking about this. I've been hinting it. I have a co-host in mind. Unfortunately, that co-host said, no time in this year. 2026 is going to be the year that this person can cover Joanna Newsom. And so season 4 may well be Joanna Newsom. Season 3 is still open. I don't know. I have some bands I'm thinking about, but we're going to have to try and figure it out.
It's going to be season 4, 2027 is when you're going to do Joanna Newsom?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it could be if I do an abbreviated season for season 3, like a band with less records.
I see.
There may be 2 seasons in 2026. Season 3 and season 4. There could be a spring season and a fall season.
You're going to do it British style.
Could be.
Short seasons.
I don't know. I need a season that's a little bit shorter. So I've got a list of bands. Now listen, there are bands that you and I have talked about. I would love to do an Uncle Tupelo season, but that is going to be a full year season at a minimum.
No.
Right?
Uncle Tupelo, they only had 4 studio albums.
You can't do Tupelo and not get into Sun Volt and Wilco, I don't think.
No, come on. You're kidding me.
Yeah, I don't think so. Do you think that you can do that?
Wilco alone would be like 2 years worth of episodes.
Yeah.
They've released so many albums at this point. Sunvolt has released way more than Tupelo did.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay, so you're
that's a huge thing to chew, or a huge bite to bite.
Well, listen, maybe we can discuss a Tupelo season without Wilco and Sunvolt. That would be a pretty short season because there's just 4 records, right?
4 studio albums, and I think there might be some, odds and sods.
Yeah. So that would be but that's kind of the length of, I'm looking, Radiohead is one that I really am dying to do, but that is going to be it's going to be a very long season, right?
Yes.
So Iron Maiden, I've discussed many times with Roth, and I think we'd both like to do it. But Iron Maiden buries even Rush with the number of releases they have. Wow. I mean, Iron Maiden would be a 2 to 3 year project, and I just don't think I can sign up for it. So anyway, well, I've got a little work on that, but we will announce what season 3 is going to be in the season finale, as we did last time. Hopefully, we'll have that all lined up, and expect for that season finale to land sometime around Thanksgiving. And if you live in the UK, as I know a substantial number of our listeners this season do, from the data team that I have crunching the numbers back there in the back,
analytics.
Thanksgiving is the end of November, guys.
Yeah, we're not talking about Canadian Thanksgiving here, all right?
No, when is Canadian thing? It's October or something?
I think it's October. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so the final bit of housekeeping we need to discuss here has to do with Mr. Eitzel. None other than Mark Eitzel, singer-songwriter, and in no small way the reason that we're here doing this podcast. So I have been in infrequent but consistent communication with Mr. Eitzel about appearing on the podcast. And I think that I received a message from him last week that I am going to accept as his last and final rejection of the offer to come on and do an interview. He was very nice about it. I shared the message with J. William Hall. He explained his reasons. I am not going to read his message here because I did not ask him if I could do that. But I think his reasons were fair. They were totally fair. He was appreciative of the fact that we're doing the podcast, which frankly was shocking. Now that might have been pure politeness on his part. But he did express that he appreciated us doing the podcast. But he did decline the invite yet again, and so I think that's it. Now, I am going to respond. I haven't done this yet. I don't want to spoil it. I'm going to respond. I'm going to say, listen, Eitzel, if you ever want to play a show in Hawaii, just you let me know.
Yeah.
And I'll set that up. I have a feeling that's gonna be another polite rejection. But I'm gonna throw it out because you know what, Jay William? It's never gonna happen if you don't ask.
That's right. Yeah, nothing ventured, nothing gained.
That's right. And in this case, nothing was gained. Nothing at all was gained.
Well, if he ever comes to Hawaii and then he does the Hula Maiden in Hawaii, I wonder if he even does that song anymore. These are answers we can only know if he goes to Hawaii.
I know. Well, listen, I'm gonna make the invitation. If he decides to accept it, maybe we can do a live broadcast of a performance. Well, I don't know. We'll figure it out on the very small chance that this does happen. But I wanted to share that with you. I wanted to thank Mr. Eitzel for at least kind of keeping the lines of communication open. And listen, if he changes his mind after the Candy Ass episode, I'll let you guys know. You never know, right? So, Jay William, with that, it is time to get into Candy Ass, shall we?
Let's get into that Candy Ass.
Okay, so Candy Ass was released on October 4th, 2005. It was released on Cooking Vinyl, J. William Hall. Could you tell us a little bit about the label Cooking Vinyl? Because it isn't a big indie. It's not a legendary indie, but it's a known indie label. I mean, that's a label that you know of, right?
Yes, Cooking Vinyl is a name, and again, we've talked about labels and stuff in the past, and it's we don't have deep knowledge about all the indie labels out there, but Cooking Vinyl is one that I have heard of. They have released albums by many alternative artists that you know and love, including bands such as The Church.
Okay.
Black Francis from the Pixies did some solo stuff. Killing Joke, Perubu, Kula Shaker.
Oh, Kula Shaker. You know what? I'm a
Echo and the Bunnymen. Some of their latter albums. So they've been around. They've put out, big releases by lots of alternative artists. There is a certain amount of, I don't think they're just going to release some, no name first album off the street.
They're not necessarily breaking new artists. They are releasing records by heritage artists. Is that the way that I should say that?
I think that actually is a good way to put it, because all of these bands that I just named, and I'm looking through even more of their discography, and it seems like they are heritage, alternative artists.
Yeah.
That
maybe don't have a massive fan base, but have a very dedicated fan base that's gonna buy, whatever they put out. They're catering to existing fan bases primarily.
It seems that way. It would seem just in perusing their discography. Yes.
Okay, excellent. So Cooking Vinyl released this record. It is 50 minutes and 26 seconds long. Now, J. William Hall, is it time for us to discuss the cover art?
Let's do it.
Okay, so I am going to tell you who is responsible for the layout of the cover art, who's responsible for the photography of the cover art, who is responsible for the art direction of this entire project. It is Mark Eitzel. He did it all.
This is a true DIY Mark Eitzel experience.
And I have to say, I really like this cover. It's funny. I think that the inclusion of the phrase "and his new recording Candy Ass" in the middle of the record, I think is very funny. I find the image evocative. I don't know. I like this cover.
Tell the people what the image is.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. It is an image of a claw machine at an arcade, right? We all know what a claw machine is. You put in a coin, you move a kind of a mechanical claw, and then you try to grab a prize. And the claw machine is just chock-a-block with goodies on this cover. Above the claw machine, there is some kind of mirrored background and what looks like a neon sign that says "Good luck," and then right kind of in the middle is the Mark Eitzel and his new recording Candy Ass text. I really like this, and I think it's appropriate. For some reason, it feels appropriate for his more electronic recordings. I'm not sure why I'm saying that, but it somehow, the more pastoral images of Eitzel, the kind of ship on a lonely sea stuff, I feel like is very appropriate for the, more acoustic singer-songwriter, fare that Eitzel does. This is an album that I would argue, we'll get into it, but I would argue is primarily an electronic album for him. And I think this cover is actually somehow feels evocative of that to me.
Yeah. Well, I think the neon sign, the neon good luck sign with all of the mirrored lights in the background, it looks a little disco dance floor-ish. Not to say that this is a dance floor album, but
it isn't.
It is electronic.
Yeah. No, but I would say that I like this. I like this cover. Interesting, unusual for Eitzel. I'm a fan, and I'm going to give it a B.
I'm also I'm going to give it a B minus.
Okay, good. All right, so thank you for sponsoring that, Michael. We appreciate it. Now it is time to move on to the production and the arrangements on this album. So, J. William Hall, this one is pretty straightforward. Eitzel is the producer. Eitzel is the sole musician, from what I can tell, or at least from what I could find in credits available online. This is really an Eitzel one-person show. There are mixers that we can talk about, 2 different mixers that are credited. But before we move into that, what did you kind of think about this truly solo Eitzel production?
Yeah, I would slot this album alongside like Lover's Leap USA and Super Hits, which were sort of assemblages of home recordings and kind of things that he wasn't recording them all together intended to be an album necessarily. It seems like these were a collection of things that he recorded over the course. I found an article that said it was over the course of a 3-year period and completed in 2005. So, so he was kind of doing this stuff at home while all of the stuff around Love Songs for Patriots was happening.
Okay.
So I don't know if this was like demos that were potentially intended for AMC. It seemed like maybe some of this stuff was intended for some kind of soundtrack work that he was doing. But I couldn't find the details on what exactly, so I think like the instrumental pieces, like this is the first Eitzel solo record with multiple instrumentals on it.
Yeah.
And I think that those must have been intended for whatever this soundtrack or sound production thing that he was doing. And so I found a quote from him.
Yeah.
He told Magnet Magazine, quote, "I didn't intend to make Candy Ass. My management kind of forced me to release it. I was going to release it only on the web, so I'm a candy ass for releasing the damn thing."
Yeah.
That's his quote about the album. And that leads me to believe that this was just like a collection of things that he had been working on. And for whatever reason, his management or whoever was like, hey, like Cooking Vinyl wants to put something out. Let's, put this together and we'll put it out. And so it does not feel to me like a fully fleshed out, like, full concept package. This feels like a collection as opposed to like an album,
Yeah. I would agree with that. I think that what, at least in my mind, differentiates it from Lover's Leap and Super Hits International, there are probably 2 things. One, there's no question that it has much more of an electronic bent than either of those 2 demo collections. So in that way, I think it feels as though it sits alongside The Invisible Man a little bit. And then two, I would probably say it feels a little bit more like a demo collection to me as well. But because it is recorded in Pro Tools, presumably, because it's recorded digitally, and I don't think Super Hits or Lover Sleep USA was, I could be wrong about this, but I'd have to go back and listen to it, but it felt more analog to me. It just has a different...
I think Super Hits was some early Pro Tools kind of stuff, because there were some metronome kind of beats and stuff like that in there. So but anyway, probably different DAW.
It definitely, I would say that overall the production and sound quality is better than those two demo collections.
Yeah.
But it is much more experimental and much more electronic music focused overall. That's kind of my takeaway. Now, the mixers, there are two mixers that are credited on this. One is named Tom Stubbs, who I looked around for credits and did not find anything that really kind of caught my eye. That's not to say that he is not a tremendously talented person, but I just didn't really recognize any of the bands, or nothing caused me to write down some notes about Stubbs. But William Sponge, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's last name. Spong.
Spong.
Sponger. So William Spong, again, not like, he's not like a hugely popular mixer, producer, or anything. But one name did kind of pop out for me. And that name, J. William Hall, is Martina Topley Bird. Now, do you know who Martina Topley Bird is?
I do not.
Okay, so Martina Topley Bird was, at least for me, best known as the female vocalist that recorded with Tricky. So if you remember British trip hop pioneer, Tricky,
right.
He, I had when I had CDs, I had two Tricky CDs, Pre-Millennium Tension and the one before that, and I don't remember the name of it right now. But both of those records featured Martina Topley Bird, and she kind of was the, she would sing like the hooks. So Tricky, I would venture to say that probably his biggest hit, insofar as he had a hit in the U.S., was a song called Christian Sands, and she sang a very memorable hook over kind of the, chorus of that song, that very lovely, very lovely. I actually saw Tricky live and saw Martina Topley Bird live one time. Yes.
So she made an impression.
She did. I was on drugs. I am going to admit that right now. I was on drugs when I saw Tricky, but I did go see Tricky.
And she made an impression. So.
She did. I'm not going to say what drugs I was on. There was only one drug. I wasn't on multiple drugs. I was just on one drug. And I was young, guys. Come on. I was in my early 20s. Early 20s.
It's experiments. Yeah.
You're allowed to do that in those wild days. I was in Chicago. I believe I saw Tricky. I don't remember what. Maybe the Metro. Might have been the Metro. But
okay, that sounds right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I'm not going to go on to that little side journey. Okay, so anyway, I for a second I was going to say that I feel like our mutual friend Mark R might have gone with me. He of the children's theater musical performance about molestation. That Mark.
Gotcha. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, Martina Topley Bird. So I thought that was interesting and actually kind of connected a little bit to the vibe of this album overall, right? Like I've never heard any of Martina Topley Bird's solo records, but I would assume that they're more or less in the same, broad genre as Tricky. And it does feel to me as though there is a strong vein of that kind of music going through this this record for Eitzel.
Yeah, some of the beats that he uses on this record sound like trip hop, in the broadest sense that I understand it. And on the Bandcamp page for this album, the description of the album name checks another group from that same era, Boards of Canada.
Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah.
And they were like more of an electronic kind of thing. So it definitely, it's clear at this point that Eitzel was interested to some extent in, electronic music and the trip hop genre, that was going on at the time. And that shows up a lot in his home recordings, I think, because, that's something that one person can kind of produce and do, at home. And he was dabbling in it.
Yeah. I mean, I really, this album took me back to an era that is effectively the era that I was just talking about, right? There was this period of time in the early 2000s where I think home recording and electronic music, when I say electronic music, this is probably an impossibly outdated phrase, but that's kind of the way I think about it. Like rave music and all that kind of stuff was happening in the 90s, but it was definitely a subculture, and it was quite separate from rock music and kind of indie rock music. And there was this period of time around 2000 and right after 2000 where I think a lot of rock and indie musicians started to become more interested in that style of recording and that style of music. And there were a lot of these interesting kind of experimentations that happened in and around then. So like, I think records like, the Portishead record was incredibly influential, certainly Tricky, and that I think they were all from Manchester. There was this like trip hop thing that was happening. But then there was also, Radiohead in, I believe, 2001 released Kid A, and then right on the heels of that, they released Amnesiac, which was just like this kind of like the Godfather, in some ways, like the most commercially successful of the bands that you could still stretch and call indie music. They're not indie in any real way, but they were kind of, I think,
alternative.
Yeah, they were alternative. Like when they embraced that so fully after OK Computer on Kid A and Amnesiac, I really think that was like, in a lot of ways, a starting gun of a lot of these weird kind of records that were coming out. There was another record that I wanted to mention that Candy Ass very vaguely reminded me of that you may remember, J. William Hall, although it is a deep cut, called Dark Night of the Soul. Do you remember this record? It was a collaboration. Go ahead.
No, I'm not sure that I do, but something's ringing a bell. But I don't. I mean, that phrase, of course, is a old phrase. But
yeah,
what was it?
It was a collaboration between Mark Linkous of Sparkle Horse, the producer / DJ Danger Mouse, and David Lynch.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So it had like that sort of cinematic plus electronic kind of thing going on.
Very atmospheric. Yeah, it was very atmospheric and kind of strange. And I don't know. I just think that there was this moment in time where there was a lot of that stuff happening, and I remember it feeling really fresh and exciting to me as someone who really never got into like rave music or anything like that. So, and I also like equally, I didn't like rap music at all, hip hop at all. So, the notion that bands that played like traditional band instruments all of a sudden were introducing samples and doing all of this kind of like, Pro Tools production and, it was all, for me personally, it was all pretty exciting at that moment in time. And I guess this is a long-winded way of me saying that I feel like that's where Eitzel was at this stage as well.
Yeah, that's what was in the air. Beeps and bloops.
Yeah, exactly. But I will say that this record overall for me, we're going to get into the track by track. It feels unfinished to me. It feels like a strange mix between what's on Super Hits and what's on Invisible Man. And there are a limited number of songs on here that I feel as though coalesce. There's kind of like the singer-songwriterly, like classic Eitzel stuff that shows up, like My Pet Rat, St. Michael. And then there's these pure instrumental, electronic, atmospheric experiments that come up, like Cobb H or whatever, however you say that.
I'm gonna tell you how you say it, but we'll wait until we get there.
But there are not very many that I think kind of synthesize those things into a form that I think is worthy of being on an album. Honestly, there are a couple of places that I really think it works, but overall, I feel like this is him kind of like feeling around for something more than anything else.
Well, I think the quote that I read from him says it all. Like, he didn't want to release this, because it seems like it's at least two different projects, just kind of not even projects. Like one thing is there's this soundtracky kind of stuff, instrumentals, built off of electronics and keyboards. Like that stuff sounds of a piece with itself. Yeah. But that's split with kind of more of the traditional acoustic singer-songwriter-y stuff. And then there's a couple where there's a little bit of a blend between the two things, I guess. So, I don't think of it as an album. I think of it as a collection of things that he had, and somebody compelled him to put this together and put it out. But it's hard to maybe judge it in the same way as like Invisible Man or something that feels more of like a cohesive, like this was a collection of songs recorded together, meant to be together, but let's get into it. Come on.
All right, let's do it. Okay, so then we are going to get into it. The song, side A, if there were a side, it would be side A. First song on side A, My Pet Rat, St. Michael, 3 minutes and 28 seconds. Let's give it a listen.
You gotta help my pet rat dog. He's always glum, though I give him lab cigarettes, sawdust, even a wheel to run.
Okay, J. William Hall. This song in demo form has been floating around for a while at this point, right?
Has it? How do you know this?
Yeah, I have no evidence of that, but I just kind of feel like as we were researching some of these other kind of demo albums and things, I feel like this may have shown up as like a B-side someplace or something. Is that inaccurate? Maybe it's inaccurate.
I believe that to be inaccurate, but
okay.
I don't have an all-encompassing knowledge. But it's the first time that I had heard the title of the song or anything like that anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, my misinformation aside, lyrics. Why don't you dive into it, J. William Hall? Tell us what you think of these lyrics.
Okay, so this is one of the songs on the album that is more traditional singer-songwriter-y. Starts off, it's a somber acoustic picking, Eitzel in kind of a low tone. It sets sort of a dark kind of mood, and it tells the tale of, the singer is speaking to a doctor or veterinarian, I guess, about his pet rat who is clearly depressed. And he can't figure out why the rat is depressed. And that's kind of the scene of the song. I don't know if it's a metaphor, if it's a commentary, of course this is coming off of Love Songs for Patriots in the listener's chronology. I don't know if this song predates that. But, so I was like, maybe he sang on Love Songs for Patriots about the rats escaping the sinking ship, and now he's talking about a pet rat. And it sounds kind of like, he talks about he's given the rat all of these things. I don't have the lyrics right in front of me, but it's like he's given the rat food and entertainment. And a wheel to run on. And why is the rat depressed? And so I saw this as some kind of metaphor for like, again, some kind of American malaise, something along those lines. I saw it through a political kind of bent. But the only ripple in that is that the rat's name is Saint Michael. Yeah. And I was like, Saint Michael is a biblical figure.
Sure.
Do you know about Saint Michael?
Sure. Wasn't Saint Michael the one that was shot with arrows? Shot Possibly. To death with arrows? I could be wrong about that, but
I find, on the interwebs, I found that he is sort of like the lead archangel, like the head of the angels. And he leads the forces of God against Satan. Whether he gets shot, I don't remember. I don't know the end of the story. But I just thought it was interesting that was the name of the rat in Eitzel's song, and was this have some kind of like religious kind of thing, unhappy Christian kind of thing. Probably reading too much into it, but what's your take?
I felt like this was really a tone poem in the mode of early American Music Club, right? If you go all the way back to kind of The Restless Stranger, there are a number of songs that have these very long lyrics that are kind of unstructured. And I feel like that's the first and most kind of noticeable thing about this song. It is very wordy. There's a lot of lyrics, and there isn't a lot of structure or variation to the song. The lyrics themselves, I felt like at times were quite funny, at times were quite touching, but I did not really take anything away specific from these lyrics other than this kind of tragicomic scenario that he was painting. There's definitely a lot of stuff about alcoholism in here, right? There's a number of times over the course of the lyrics where the narrator, which one I think reasonably would assume is Eitzel, he says things like, but my glass is still half full. Right? And he's kind of distracted from the plight of his pet rat, Saint Michael, by the fact that he still has some alcohol in his glass. And then there's another section where he kind of like, the party's over. I'm kind of relieved, but I'm also kind of sad. I don't know. There's this struggle that the narrator seems to be having with like his ability to kind of solve the problem for Saint Michael in the midst of actually the glass. And so I just kind of, I felt like it probably, I don't know. I just have to say, I don't know. I didn't really take anything specific. It did not work for me as a metaphor for America or anything like that. I just thought it was this kind of vaguely surreal story that had elements of wrestling with alcohol in it and frankly, some elements of comedy in it. And tragedy, right? There's this like Saint Michael he would hang himself, but he's already chewed through the rope. I thought that was an evocative image. But of the lyrics, there's like one section that begins with this line that I really just in and of itself, I appreciated and found quite a bit of beauty in. It's towards the end of the song where he says, in the end, there are no saints, there are no liars. There are just sparks falling down the wires, which I love that line. It is unclear to me what the sparks are falling down the wires. I was like, is he talking about, is that a voice going through a telephone line? I don't know, but I like that. That really grabbed me.
Yeah, that's a very visual, evocative line. There are a lot of good lines in this and a lot of humor in it, starting early on where he says, he's telling the doctor, I tell the rat, you should be happy. There's no reason to stare. I play a Mariah Carey, so there's butterflies and rainbows in the air,
Yeah.
Eitzel, something that kind of comes up again and again in his lyrics is sort of references to like different pop culture things. Like sometimes it's like old stuff like, Johnny Mathis, but I think it's interesting. There aren't a lot of lyricists out there who make references to, other artists who are around at the time in their lyrics. I think that's kind of funny.
I
mean, a lot of good lines. I don't know if there is a clear meaning here. But I really choose to see it as a metaphor for America.
Well, as has been the case lately, that musically, I don't think there's a ton happening here, and that was probably what I liked least about the song. It was a very unstructured song. Again, it was a real tone poem, and I like the guitar figure that he's playing, but it seems kind of like an unformed melody, like an unstructured song, like it's mostly him just kind of trying to figure out a way to somewhat musically kind of get through these lyrics. It just in that way, it reminded me of AMC, but it also reminded me of a thing that I have to point out because it annoyed me to no end.
Uh-oh.
When I was researching the album and kind of listening to this song, I read a review, a Pitchfork review. Shame on me for going to Pitchfork, but I went to Pitchfork, and this song kind of was like the first thing that popped into my head as I was reading the Pitchfork review. But I just want to read the first sentence of this fucking obnoxious Pitchfork review.
Okay.
Though sometimes dismissed as a bald, ugly crusader of one-note mope, Mark Eitzel can be a bald, ugly bastion of hope. That's the first fucking phrase, couple of phrases in this review. And I'm just like, okay, say what you want about the album and say that he sometimes is one note and mopey, but is there any reason at all to just say he's bald and ugly twice in the first sentence of this review? I find this to be incredibly obnoxious and something that would not be done in nearly any other review. So the first thing that I fucking did...
Clearly written by a young person who has not gone bald yet.
No. So the first thing I did, I'll tell you, this review was written by somebody named Ryan Dombal. So I'm like, oh, this guy probably looks like fucking Brad Pitt or something. I better go check him out. Thanks to the internet, first thing that I found is a picture of a guy that looks like somebody should stuff in a fucking locker. He's like got fucking like fucking rosacea or something all over his scrawny face, and he just looks like Screech's uglier younger brother. And I say that without any remorse because this motherfucker decided for no good reason just to make fun of the way and by the way, yeah, he's bald. Who cares? He's like a grown-ass man making this album, and I don't think that Eitzel is ugly. So like, fuck you, Ryan Dombal, and if you want to fight, believe me, I will fucking bury your scrawny Brooklyn motherfucking ass. You douchebag. Go write a review of some other bullshit, asshole. I was so pissed when I read that review.
Clearly. You're still
I am. No, I just find that obnoxious. Listen, you write a review, and if you don't like the music or it's shitty, make fun of the music if you want. I mean, that's kind of fair game. You're reviewing the music, but I can't imagine a review where just arbitrarily you decide to whatever.
Right, take a shot like that. So let me ask you this.
It's just unnecessary.
Let me ask you this. What was the score that he gave the album?
No score. 4.0. 4.0. There is a score. 4.0.
Yeah, fuck this guy. Come on, man.
Listen, I don't even have a quibble with 4.0. Rate it whatever the fuck you want, Pitchfork. What I have a quibble with is can you imagine if he said something like this about just juxtapose this to any other musician, right? It's just ridiculous. It's unnecessary, and I found it to be especially annoying because this guy is such a fucking dorky looking shit brain.
Well, I hope that he takes you up on his offer to fight.
That is going to be the season finale. Me v. Ryan Dombal.
I'll be there in your corner. I'll be the guy that's like, get back in there, Dad. You gotta get in there. And I'll have the smelling salts, and I'll be waving it under your nose and getting you psyched up.
Yeah, this I'm going to send you after we record. I'm going to send you a picture of this guy just so you can, laugh. Asshole Dombal. All right, are we done with the first song?
This is why we're going to cover this whole album in one episode. Are you ready?
That's right. All right, so track number 2, Cotton Candy 10th Power, is 4 minutes and 44 seconds. Shall we listen?
Let's.
Okay, Jay Mahal, we don't need to cover the lyrics for this one because there are no vocals. This is a pure instrumental.
Yes. What do you think about the title?
I find the title to be very interesting and kind of funny.
Yeah.
But not appropriate for the song, and I can explain why in a second, but it is like an comically sweet title, right?
Right.
But that is not what this song is, I don't think. I mean, talking about an instrumental is a little bit difficult, especially difficult for me talking about an electronic instrumental. But this song overall, to me, feels like pure experimentation. But it takes a very interesting turn at 3 minutes and 30 seconds, does it not?
It does indeed. It starts out sort of like serene. For a lot of it, it's just a sort of ambient, serene thing. And then right around, 3.5 minutes or so, some dissonance comes in and it gets a little it starts to feel a little intense. I think does the beat suddenly kind of speed up? And
I think the thing that really puts it off is there is a very sinister, strange laugh.
Yes.
That comes in at about, and right when that laugh comes in, all of the music takes this very dark turn.
Yes.
Almost eerie, almost goth. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Reminds me of like a I want to say Skinny Puppy or Ministry. It's not really industrial that way, but it has that kind of like Halloween-y vibe.
Yeah, it's got some dissonance and like dark tones, and the laugh is creepy.
Yeah.
The final sequence, I felt like I was a little bit like, at the end of 2001 Space Odyssey, where he's like all like the lights are hitting him. He's like, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And so an interesting piece. And this is the first time that we've heard, I think, an Eitzel instrumental.
Yeah, it is. I think you're right. This is the first Eitzel instrumental. This is, I do think what's notable about this song, and it probably is really just the sequencing of the album, but it is notable how much, I guess it seems to indicate, since he's done this all on his own, he really has kind of progressed as an electronic music producer. I don't want to pretend like I'm an expert in that, but kind of the earlier experiments that he was doing, and then he received a lot of help, like, on The Invisible Man, right? There were people who, were involved in the recording of that album that presumably helped him out with that stuff a lot. I would say just purely from a production perspective, this is, really solid.
Yeah, it sounds good. There's a lot of layers. There's a lot of different elements going on. This isn't just like a tossed off thing. The thing I wonder about this one is whether this one has the origins in that soundtrack kind of project. Because I mean, it must. It sounds like it.
It definitely feels that way to me. Anything else to say about this one?
I question it as the second track on the album.
Well, I think there's a lot to discuss about the tracking of this album.
Yeah.
I would agree with you. In particular, I think that putting My Pet Rat St. Michael up front is unwise on this record. Not because I dislike that song in any particular way, but I feel like it's really misleading about what the rest of the record is going to be.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe the point of putting this second was like, here's the two extremes that we're gonna cover on this album. I don't know. We would have to ask Mr. Eitzel. Yeah,
well, it seems like we're not going to have that opportunity. Right. I think personally, My Pet Rat St. Michael would have worked better as the tag at the end of the album than putting it up front, and then do one of these more atmospheric things. Maybe not a pure instrumental one, but something else up front, because I just think I found it to be very jarring going from My Pet Rat St. Michael into the rest of the album. It made the album feel even more like a collection of kind of oddities than it even is, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It was a red herring.
It was. All right, so shall we move on to Make Sure They Hear?
Let's.
5 minutes and 40 seconds. Let's make sure they hear. Okay, so these lyrics I found to be really interesting, actually. I'm not sure that there are a couple of sets of lyrics on this album that I feel this way about. These are uncharacteristically, in my opinion, straightforward and positive. They feel like a rallying cry to me.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like a song of perseverance or a message of perseverance,
Yeah.
And again, how do you choose to filter that? Is that just like a straight up like, you go girl kind of song, or is it like there is a political kind of thing going on here, or there's a personal kind of thing going on here? But it starts off with a pretty strong couplet, I think. Don't let them ask you what you believe. They'll only take it. Don't let them ask you what you'll believe. They only want to break it.
Yeah.
And so that leads me, we're setting up an us and them kind of scenario here. And so that makes me think that this is sort of a political song in some way, where it's, he's trying to encourage somebody to like, don't back down, like believe in yourself, that kind of thing. But it's kind of, it doesn't sound sunny and cheery.
It doesn't, but it is I do think it's an uncharacteristically, I don't want to say positive, but it's definitely a message of perseverance. I think you put it well. Now the music for me, it was very interesting in this one. It was strange to me. The first thing that I wanted to ask you, is there anything in the keyboards that kind of really are the primary instrumentation in this song that's grounding the melody? I could not figure out whether he was like, if the keyboard notes and chords he was playing really had any connection to the melody line that he was singing at all.
There might be like a pad or something that's just kind of like doing big whole notes. But yeah, you're right though, that like the rest of it is, kind of it sounds like cinematic snippets and a trip hop beat and some chimey kind of high pitched bleeps and bloops.
Yeah.
And you're right that there isn't like a strong, like, it's a D and then it's an E minor and then it's an A, like maybe it is, but if it is, it's subtle, like it's more of a soundscape kind of thing. This is one that when I said like, the first two songs were the two extremes of the album.
Yeah.
And then this is something that kind of combines a little bit, because you've got a mostly electronic piece, but it's got some vocals over it,
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree with that. It definitely has this character of the instrumentation in the background seemed to me primarily atmospheric and unconnected from what kind of vocal line there is. there's a weird, the only kind of instrumentation thing that I was able to kind of pull out and notice, it sounded to me like there was a weird, it could have been probably was a keyboard, but it almost sounded like a weird distorted harmonica sound in here that I felt like was notable. But overall, the impression that I had was quite specific of this song, and I have no idea whether this is going to be evocative for you or not. But have you ever been to a W Hotel? I don't even know if those still exist. Does the W Hotel still exist?
I that does not sound familiar to me.
Okay, so the W Hotel chain was a hotel chain. It may be gone now, but it was a hotel chain in kind of the early 2000s. And when as part of my work, I ended up staying in W hotels relatively frequently in different cities.
You were a mattress salesman.
That's right. And the W Hotel had this environment in the lobby and elevators that was like Virgin Airlines, if you've ever been on. It was like this kind of calm, but like vaguely atmospheric background, hip hop beats, but like and it really kind of like, when I heard this, I was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm in a W Hotel right now, which was just, it totally transported me to that feeling. Clearly, for those of you who've been in a number of W Hotels over the years, that may mean something to you. But yeah, that was this song to me. And that isn't, when I say that, I don't mean that with unrestrained positivity, I guess.
You didn't want to feel like you were back in a W Hotel. It wasn't the luxurious experience.
The W Hotel always had this character to me that was like middle-aged businessmen on business trips hanging out in the lobby that had this vaguely disco nightclub feel, and it felt kind of sleazy somehow to me. It wasn't sleazy, but it just kind of felt, I don't know, I just like felt gross. When I'm staying at a hotel, I hate hotels, but when I'm staying at a hotel, I want real, I want the basics. I am not a person who enjoys a hotel in any way. There are some people, my wife, for example, loves like a nice hotel lobby. She'll sit down and have a drink and like get some mixed nuts. And, that really feels like a kind of a vacation-y thing to do. I fucking hate hotels. And so I want it to be like as utilitarian as possible. I want I don't want any bit of interaction. I don't want to hang out in the lobby with people who are equally unrooted as I am at that moment. You know what I mean? I just don't like it. I like.
See, but Eitzel seems like a hotel bar kind of guy.
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I don't. Yeah. See, I would say that I hate a hotel bar as well. I love a bar, but like if I'm in a strange city and I'm staying at a W Hotel and there's the W Hotel bar, I will leave the hotel and try and find some dumpy bar on the street to go into before I'll sit down at the W bar with like, a bunch of people in their khakis and a pullover.
Blackberry.
Blackberry, drinking a whiskey sour, being like, oh, God, the boss is really up my ass today. You better make this one a double. You know what I mean, bud? That kind of thing. I don't like that.
Yeah, totally. So
all right.
Now, forever I'm going to picture this song as something that Eitzel was working on for the W Hotel chain. And maybe they used it, maybe they didn't. I don't know. I've never been. So...
See, I mean, maybe the more appropriate title for that would be Sleeping Beauty, because of course, when you go to a hotel, you want to have a beautiful night's sleep.
Right.
So shall we move on? That's right. You want to feel beautiful both inside and outside.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So should we move on, or do you want to talk more about?
Let's
make sure
move on. We've already started. We're talking about Sleeping Beauty, the song.
Okay. 3 minutes and Do you want to talk about what you would talk about in college that was a Sleeping Beauty, or should we leave that off?
No. Let's leave that off.
Okay, we're going to leave that off.
That's a different podcast, different channel.
Okay, so Sleeping Beauty, 3 minutes and 41 seconds. Let's hit it.
As I drove away over the dead leaves of your southern town, I watched you wave and wave. In the mirror I saw you wave as the autumn fell until I made my turn and I thought, oh well.
All right, J. William Hall, lyrics in here. Just a lovely scene in the first verse. Do you wanna share with us what your take is on the whole thing?
So here's my question, and I don't know the answer to this, but is this a Kathleen song?
You know, it definitely could be. There's no doubt about it. And it has this just, real wistfulness, sadness, saying goodbye. All of those feelings are kind of like, bound up in this one. It certainly could be, but I didn't feel as though, there was anything within the text of these lyrics that would allow us to say that with certainty.
We cannot say with certainty. He sets the scene. He's driving away from somebody who he loves in a southern town.
Yep.
And
I believe that Kathleen did die in Atlanta.
There was something about her
was
being
in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's why I started to think down that road. And
yeah.
He talks in the first verse about your beautiful hands, frozen hands, trembling hands. But I thought that in a way it was a little bit of a lyrical callback to Heaven of Your Hands.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I don't know if that's accurate, but it is kind of this feels like a more fully fleshed concept for a song, at least for a set of lyrics. And it's basically like a goodbye song, not knowing whether he's going to see this person again or not. Yeah. So it's got a sad kind of bittersweet kind of feel.
Yeah. I think that these are some of the most kind of traditionally constructed lyrics on the album, some of the least opaque lyrics on the album, right? There's a scene here that you can picture that is described fairly straightforwardly. So I do think that this song is more about the lyrical content than certainly Make Sure They Hear, right? And quite lovely. My favorite moment in these lyrics, my favorite line in these lyrics was, I just love this kind of idea that he expresses here. He says, selfish with my time like it's something I could keep. Which I think is like a great kind of twist on that whole concept of being selfish with your time. Right. Really, really lovely. But what about the music, Jay William? It is, to me, the first song on this album that feels like it's a truly organic synthesis of Eitzel in his more traditional singer-songwriter role and the electronic stuff.
Agreed. Yes, because you've got the soft picked guitar going with the electronic beats. I would agree. This is probably the midway point between those first two songs. And the beat kind of starts and stops repeatedly, but it's got kind of a slow march to it a little bit. Eitzel's in his kind of low, breathy sort of voice. Yep. One of the lyrical parts that I really liked was right at the end of when he talks about driving way over the dead leaves. He merged into the stream of those who know their lines. Stagnant reason why we travel so far away from our hearts, like flies caught in jars, little flies buzzing in cars. I thought that was a really strong way to end the song. It leaves you on this image of him driving away, you know? I couldn't help but think of Kathleen, but whether that's true or not, I don't know. But it could apply to any sort of, you know,
definitely a goodbye song,
or just a friend or a family member or anybody that you're leaving and, you know, who you love, and it could be the last time.
Yeah, it is. I would say that this is the first song on the album that I really kind of felt like, okay, I think that this is a song that I can imagine on an album that is, you know, has 9 other songs that are in the same style. This feels like an articulated style somehow, or like an evolution of what he did on The Invisible Man, that I think would be enough, almost like a touchstone that you could kind of make the rest of the albums around, right? It's like you find that one song that's like, this is kind of the sound, and then you work backwards from that on the rest of the songs to try and come up with a more cohesive whole for the album. I don't really know that that's how Eitzel approaches doing an album, but I could imagine that, and I do think that this would be a great entry in that album were that album to exist. I don't think that album is Candy Ass. I think it's a little more scattered than that, but here, there's real potential in this one, I think.
This is my new concept that I'm just coming up with now, so it's not fully fleshed.
Yeah.
Jay Williams retracking. We're going to split the electronic instrumental stuff into one EP. We're going to split the more acoustic, more traditional singer-songwriter lyrics into another EP, 2 5-song EPs. One is called Candy, one is called Ass. These are separate releases, and that is the way I'm going to choose to listen. But I think that this is a strong number on the acoustic sung EP. I don't know which one that
interesting.
Is.
Okay.
If it's either Candy or if it's Ass.
So I disagree with that approach, because I think that this is, I like that this one synthesizes those two approaches pretty well. That's my opinion.
Okay. I agree.
Anyway, okay. So are you ready to move on to one of the Stranger songs on the album?
Yes.
A loving tribute to my city, 3 minutes and 47 seconds. Let's listen.
Had a tumor in her nose, and when she had her surgery.
Okay, so lyrics, there are no lyrics listed on Genius. Now, I will say, just by way of, disclaimer for all of those people playing along at home, the lyrics listed on Genius for this album are quite inaccurate and quite incomplete. There are a number of places on this album where the lyrics on Genius just are wrong. They don't reflect what's on the album, or are missing. Now, this one I do think is an instrumental. You couldn't call these lyrics, but there is a very disturbing, strange phone call that runs through the entirety of this song.
Yes.
I think it's a phone call. It may not be a phone call, but it sounds like one side of a phone call to me.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Now, was there not a Sparkle Horse song that utilized like a long phone message? I mean, maybe this is something other people have done too, where it's an actual phone message from an answering machine. You remember answering machines?
Yeah.
They took the tape and then used it in the song. This has that kind of feel to it. There's like, it sounds like a little girl, but maybe it's not a little girl. Maybe it's a woman, or maybe it's his voice sped up, or I don't know what it is, recounting. And the only snatches that I can catch, it sounds like they're talking about somebody having like a near-death experience.
Yeah,
is that what you got?
There was there's reference to a surgery, I believe, on a nose to remove a tumor or something. And I feel as though I remember discussion of a body being found in the water, but like it's deep enough in the mix that I couldn't really hear all of the text. But I will say around this time, again, lots of use of this kind of audio and some of these kind of indie experiments. Of course, I'm sure you remember J. William Hall, my band from LA, our hit song, Hey Lazy Susan.
How could I forget?
Answering machine message. And no one in America can forget.
I don't know why you don't do the next season of Backtracking about
my
your
own
LA
band.
You're right.
Wow.
You wouldn't be objective enough.
Well, it's definitely not a band that's been covered by any other podcast. So
maybe me and Rolf can do that one. Me and Rolf can cover your band for season 3.
But you know what? The use of the long phone call over music like this reminded me of most acutely. This is a very obscure reference, but I am certain listeners in the Southern California area may remember this. There was a radio personality on KCRW, which is the kind of LA NPR indie rock station. I think he was on KCRW, named Joe Frank.
Oh yeah. Have we talked about this? Did this come up?
I'm not sure if we've ever
season?
talked about it. I would be surprised if I brought up Joe Frank, but I love Joe Frank. Or he's dead now, unfortunately, but
this is the guy that did all the paranormal and like
No, that's Art Bell. That's Art Bell.
Maybe we talked about Art Bell. Okay, never mind. Sorry.
No, Joe Frank did these kind of hour-long radio shows that were really like very strange like audio pastiche. And he had one series, and there was always this kind of like vaguely trip-hoppy music in the background. But he had this one series of episodes called the Karma series that, like, a lot of what was used in this, there were just these phone calls between him and other people. Him and like girlfriends, him and, friends, and it really reminded me of that. It had that, it was, Joe Frank was at times touching, at times very funny, but mostly kind of strange and atmospheric and completely singular, in my opinion. Incredible. If anybody out there has not heard of Joe Frank, go find Joe Frank and just really do yourself a favor. Really, really cool stuff. But it reminded me a bit of Joe Frank in some way.
Okay. Yeah.
That aside, I felt like the music of this doesn't really move. It doesn't really progress. It really is just atmospheric. It just kind of exists in this space.
Yeah. Well, I think, again, this sounds like emerged from a soundtrack, like you're creating a soundscape kind of thing. What do you think is the city referred to, or what city do you think he's referring to in the title? A loving tribute to my city.
That is a great question. I thought about this many times as I listened to it. I assumed San Francisco the entire time, but that may be wrong.
I agree with you. I think it's San Francisco, and that's because I think that the voice that's woven through the song at some point says something about the Golden Gate, and that made me think Golden Gate Bridge.
That's right. It does say something about the Golden Gate.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I think it's San Francisco. Maybe not. Maybe that's not a big revelation.
This is a very eerie. I mean, this song really sits well alongside of Cotton Candy 10th Power. It has this eeriness that I probably associate with Dark Night of the Soul more than anything else.
Yeah. This would go on the ambient, more electronic /EP.
Yeah. All right. Should we move on to Homeland Pastoral?
Yes.
Okay. 4 minutes and 52 seconds. I want to talk about this one with you, J. William Hall. You are gesturing as though...
I need to take a break. I gotta.
Okay, he's gonna potty. We're gonna. You know what? While he potties, we're gonna listen to Homeland Pastoral. Let's go.
Great. I'll be quick.
Okay, we are back. Homeland Pastoral. J. William Hall. newly back from the potty. These lyrics I want you to take a stab at because I found these to be very interesting and perhaps even a little bit up your alley.
So, again, I don't think that I'm coming at this from a unrealistic place. Eitzel and AMC are working on Love Songs for Patriots. In my mind, it's a very political album. Political stuff is at the forefront of his thoughts as he is writing. So the songs that wind up on Candy Ass are songs purportedly that he recorded over a 3-year period. So concurrent with Love Songs for Patriots. So I think that this song, the lyrics to me sound almost like a pro-patriotic, but not sarcastic. Like it almost sounds like an earnest pro-patriotic song, like a set of lyrics that are kind of like very rah, but I can only assume that they're meant in like a sarcastic way or something. What do you think? What's going on here?
I had a very, very similar reaction. So a couple of things. I think the title of the song, Homeland Pastoral, and then the lyrics, right? I find the lyrics to be very straightforward, very hopeful, very patriotic, and almost fascistic.
Yes.
And so I just had this feeling, although there is nothing in the text of the lyrics that suggests this, I just couldn't help but interpret this as being somehow sarcastic.
Well, okay, so one of the lines in the song, here's the first verse. There's a new spirit in our homeland. We placed our fates in our Father's strong hands. In our hearts burn the fire of a brand new dawn. The storm is coming. It's time for us to be strong. Storm is coming. That was that whole QAnon stuff that you don't hear about anymore.
Well,
there was like storm.
I think isn't like the storm. Isn't that like the wasn't there an actual Nazi propaganda publication during the rise of Nazism in Germany that was called like the Storm something? And of course
Sturm?
the Der Stürmer or something.
Yes, the storm. Yes.
I'm not sure. I am not an expert on any of this stuff, but I just, regardless, I mean, I don't know.
But you're
it
right.
It
conjures fascistic imagery.
It is, and it is so but again, there is no wink. If that is really what he's doing here, there isn't a single wink.
Right.
I think you just kind of need to come to this with an understanding of who Eitzel is and the rest of his work.
Yes.
To come to the conclusion that perhaps there is sarcasm in here or parody in here or something. I don't know that that's true, but that's definitely the takeaway that I had from it.
Yeah, and the lyrics are totally straight. There's no, wink or making a face or making a funny voice or anything like that.
Yeah. But really, so I think that the lyrics are interesting here. There's a lot to kind of chew on, but the most interesting thing to me about this song is the music, actually. Yeah. I think this is one of the examples where the electronic stuff really works. It is somehow foreboding, like a lot of this work is on this album, but I think it retains the core of like a traditional song in the way that I think of a traditional song. That's definitely a preference that I have, right? I like Eitzel because I like Eitzel as a songwriter, and my personal preference is I like him best when he is working within the form of a traditional song. And I like a song structure is what I mean, right?
Yeah, verses, choruses, bridges, yeah.
Yeah, I think my personal opinion is that constraint on Eitzel's work actually is a is a positive constraint, and I think he's weakest when he breaks free from that constraint. That's my opinion, purely subjective, obviously, but that's what I tend to prefer in his work. And
Listen,
I think
I'm about to give you the Michael treatment. I'm about to give you the whatever that guy's name was from earlier. You went off. All right.
Yeah. Well, listen.
If you want to fight, you come here to Central Ohio, and me and all of Eitzel's old buddies, old pals.
But I like that song, the songness of this song.
Yes.
I like the piano-driven simplicity of what carries the kind of like melody. And I think the weird atmospherics behind that work really well to kind of counterbalance the basic kind of piano driven simplicity. Very Granddaddy in that way, if that is a reference point.
Right.
That
yes, you've got a marriage of traditional indie kind of guitar sort of stylings, but combined with the electronic. I guess there isn't much guitar in this. Is there guitar in this? No.
Yeah, I don't remember any guitar. There could be, but there's basically, the way I remember it is kind of like there's piano, there's Eitzel, and then there's a bunch of atmospheric stuff in the background. The other thing that I think really works is there is this strange hint of drum loop way down in the mix for the majority of this song. Yes. And I really like it. It's strange. You kind of have to strain to hear it. It's there, but it isn't up front, so it doesn't feel dancey or housey to me. Mm-hmm. It isn't until the 4-minute mark when like the drums like kick in. And if I'm being honest, I think that's the part of the song that works least for me. I think it should end before that 4-minute mark.
I can't help but feel like, because after that 4-minute mark, it goes into another gear and the atmospherics get more intense and it feels almost claustrophobic, and so that's, that leads me further to be like, yeah, this is like a political, like it's not in the lyrics, it's in the way the music feels,
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's an interesting way to kick off kind of the back half of the album.
Yeah, it is. Again, I think that this is another one of those songs where the combination of Eitzel, more traditional Eitzel, and the electronic stuff is working well. So, I would kind of include this with Sleeping Beauty as one of those moments on the album that I feel like, these two songs could be 2 tracks on some album that doesn't exist, that kind of is all in that style.
Or
that I think would be interesting.
An EP called Ass.
Okay. J. William Hall, I cannot believe it. I'm looking at the clock here, and we are way over. You predicted it, but we are going to have to break this one up into 2 episodes. Oh my God, 2 episodes on Candy Ass. Who would have thought? But it's what's going to happen. So next week, we are going to be covering the backside of Candy Ass. Tune in then. As always, reach us at Gmail, backtrackingrox, ROX @gmail.com. Go to Instagram and follow us at backtrackingrox. Go to Twitter and follow us at backtrackingrox. Go to Reddit and go in the American Music Club subreddit and you will find us there. Go to YouTube. Our channel is at backtrackingrox. You can go in, you can enjoy all of the episodes from season 2. You can go through all of the episodes from season 1. You can do it all. You can spend the whole fucking weekend doing it. But until next week, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we will see you then. Bye-bye.